Greetings, everyone. It's great to be with you. Great to be learning again with you. Our presentation today is entitled A Mystical Tour of a Medieval Cathedral 2. We'll have our meditation period first, and then we'll have the main body of the presentation. To sort of get us ready for the meditation and for the presentation itself, selected a special image to share with you. You'll see before you now a remarkable work of art. It's from the Bayeux Tapestry. Possibly you've been to the Museum of the Bayeux Tapestry in Bayeux, France. The Bayeux Tapestry is about 70 meters long. It's actually embroidery in wool thread on linen cloth. And it dates from the last quarter of the 11th century CE. The work of art tells a story based on imagery like stained glass windows. And it's an epic poem and a moralistic work where it tells about the Norman conquest of England. The image we have before us right now will prepare us for our meditation session, which will be based on the Rosicrucian booklet, Liber 777, which will give you a reference to in the resources later on in the presentation. You'll see here depicted before you the Anglo-Saxon Cathedral of Westminster Abbey. Possibly you've visited London, England, and gone to the Westminster Abbey. Much of the fabric now is the later French Gothic building from the later in the Middle Ages. Here we're dealing with the 11th century. You'll note that there's the hand of God coming down. It'll give a benediction for the consecration and dedication of the church. There's also a medieval figure here with a rooster sculpture in his hand. They'll be taken to the very heights of the cathedral, where the allegorical interpretation of that time in the Middle Ages was that the rooster would crow early in the morning, just as we need to be vigilant in our spiritual work and the resurrection of our true nature and the Christ principle. We're fortunate to have many documents from the Middle Ages that describe the purpose and meaning of churches in their highly allegorical descriptions. As students of the order of the Rosicrucians and also mysticism, we're used to working in allegorical manners like this. You'll notice over on the far right too here, and part of the inscription here in medieval Latin is King Edward the Confessor has recently passed through transition or passed away during the Great Initiation. And there will be a service for him in the great Anglo-Saxon temple of Westminster Abbey's church. So the inspiration of the rooster and being vigilant of the Christ consciousness or the cosmic consciousness, the presence of the divine that's within us, suggested by the hand coming down. We have a holy temple of our body, but there's also the built temple, such as we see here, but the temple of the cosmos all around us. And it's imbued with the divine, as suggested by the hand of God here. Inspired by this work of art and its beautiful symbolism of the Bayeux Tapestry, one of the masterworks of medieval art, let us turn inward now and ascend to the heights of the celestial sanctum. Following the instructions of the booklet, Liber 777, get comfortable in your chair now, or if you're lying down or however you're situated, make sure you're comfortable and you can meditate through breathing in an unencumbered way. If you're seated, you may wish to have your hands and your laps, palms down, legs at right angles at the knee, feet flat on the floor, connecting the holy temple with the temple of the earth. Have your spine upright, eyes closed, and just enjoy the gentle rhythm of the breath. Experience the wisdom of the holy temple, your body and mind. I invite you to prolong your exhalation to further stimulate the great vagus nerve in our body, which leads to the relaxation response, allows us to be calm. And when we're calm, we can heal. Our faculties can work as intended. Part of the healing process to make us whole. We can also concentrate well when we're relaxed. Meditation has the wonderful quality of being both restful and re-energizing. Just continue to enjoy the gentle rhythm of your breath, your eyes closed. Soon we'll begin our ascent to the heights of the celestial sanctum. Many of you, I think, are familiar with the Rosicrucian Order AMORC book, Mystics at Prayer. In it, there are two prayers from Anselm, one of the great theologian philosophers from the time of the Norman conquest of England and became Archbishop of Canterbury, the later part of the 11th century. We'll apply two of his prayers now in the spirit of this mystical tour of a medieval cathedral in Norman England. Let's attune now with the mystic Anselm and the divine within as we prepare to ascend to the heights of the celestial sanctum. With Anselm, we can say, O thou plenteous source of every good and perfect gift, shed abroad the cheering light of thy sevenfold grace over our hearts. Pierce with the arrows of thy love the secret chambers of the inner person. Let the entrance of thy healthful flames set the sluggish heart alight, and the burning fire of thy sacred inspiration enlighten it. Now, as a further act of purification, I invite you to say with me as well, may the divine essence of the cosmic infuse my being and cleanse me of all impurities of mind and body. I may enter the celestial sanctum and attune in pureness and in worthiness. So mote it be. Now, fratres, assorers, and participants, let us continue our meditation period by ascending to the heights of the celestial sanctum. Use all your imaginative capacity and inner psychic faculties to visualize yourself rising up from where you're situated, up over your home or dwelling or building. Look down at it. Keep rising up, look down at your neighborhood or geographic area, enjoying the system and order and beauty of the ascent. And continue to rise up over the city or town where you are, or larger geographic area. See all the system and order below and radiate love and well-being to all living persons and creatures below. As we continue to rise up higher and higher above the county where you dwell, and now above the province or state where you dwell, and now even the great nation or country you dwell, seeing the large weather systems, the rivers, the oceans, the lakes, the mountains, the deserts, the farmland, whatever's applicable to your nation or country, and continue to rise up higher and higher and take in the continent where you dwell, and now even the entire hemisphere where you dwell, and now the entire beautiful blue jewel, the great sphere or oblate spheroid of the earth. See all the browns and blues as the earth rotates about its axis, and you can see its great satellite, the moon, going around it. And look up now as you rise up higher and higher, faster and faster. going way beyond the speed of light as we transcend space and time, increasingly pass our efforts over to the divine within, and see the great solar system where we dwell in the beautiful elliptical orbits, the great fiery ball of the sun, our local star, the huge planet Jupiter, and the beautiful rings of Saturn, and the smaller planets such as Venus, Mars, and Mercury, and radiate love and well-being to them as just as we receive their psychic vibrations. And look up and let us continue out into the past our solar system, going faster and faster, applying the law of correspondence, where as we rise up into the cosmos, there'll be a parallel mirrored action of going deeper and deeper within ourselves in greater and greater contact with the master within, the divine within, our true nature and guide throughout life. Keep rising up. Enjoy the exhilaration of the ascent beyond stellar phenomena, the nebulae, the rogue planets, the black holes balancing this galaxy and the cosmos itself. See the great vibrations, experience things both physically and psychically. The great sea and wave of vibrations around us. Following what the Rosicrucians referred to as the cosmic keyboard, higher and higher octaves of vibration, doubling with each octave. Enjoy the exhilaration of the ascent at the same time that ascent deeper and deeper into our divine nature. And when we experience that divine nature further, we see how it's imbued in the cosmos about us, spoken of by the Rosicrucians as the cosmic, which is all natural and spiritual laws and the universal intelligence back of the cosmos. Let us continue to rise up higher and higher beyond that various stellar phenomena, the supernovae, the binary stars, the quasars, the pulsars, and start to sense the large-scale structure of our home, the Milky Way galaxy, and its great spiraling arms, and exit right out from this galaxy and look back at its beautiful action, moving around about its axis, just as our lives revolve about our axis of our holy temple, our spine. And the earth rotates about its axis, and the moon about the earth. And let us continue to journey out further and further into the cosmos, sense its great system and order and the great harmony of the spheres with all the beautiful vibrations. Speaking of the divine music, the temple of God, the cosmos, the divine music, those on earth seek to imitate and emulate, to inspire us to return to our great home and source in the divine. We need to rise up higher and higher, past myriad galaxies, enjoy the exhilaration of the ascent. As we move higher and higher to our celestial sanctum. Take in the great strands of the interstellar gases between stars, galaxies, clusters of galaxies, and even superclusters of galaxies, or clusters of galaxies. Enjoy the beauty, energy, and all the laws and principles that work in stupendous harmony and order of the cosmos. Just as we work to have a system and order and mastery in our lives, so it mirrors the system and order of the cosmos. There's deep inner connections. It is our birthright to realize and experience and emulate. Continue to enjoy the ascent, inspired by the great work of the Bayeux Tapestry, the profound prayers of the mystic ensemble, and our purification and invocation. Take in increasingly the great system and order of the cosmos. I think as you rise up, you'll feel increasingly the presence of the divine within you. The tingling, the enriching tonic effect of the vital life force in your holy temple in the temple of the cosmos. Continue to rise up higher and higher and sense this stupendous rotation of the universe about its great cosmic axis, and move towards that great axis, midpoint, about which everything revolves and rotates. As you go faster and faster, home in on the midpoint of that cosmic axis. When you get close to it, slow up and rest there for a moment as we begin to visualize our personal celestial sanctum, the heights and depths within. Following the instructions of the AMORC booklet, Liber 777, you may wish to visualize your celestial sanctum that you're within, surrounded by the cosmos. Some inspiring sacred temple on earth, possibly the Grand Temple of the Rosicrucians at Rosicrucian Park in San Jose, California, or some other temple sacred to you, or possibly some inspiring place in nature, like the great view at the center of the cosmos that you're at, or maybe some sacred grove of trees, or a beautiful meadow, or being by a lake shore or seashore up on a high hill, all suggestive of the divine within. The great handiwork of the Creator. Fill in the sights and sounds and other impressions, both inward and outward, psychic and physical, of your sacred place. You may wish to picture there two other seekers with us on this conference call, the invisible and visible masters, the Grand Lodge officers of our Grand Lodge of the Rosicrucian Order AMORC, Grand Masters and the Imperator who may be conducting a sacred convocation. You may wish to picture incense rising up just as we rose up to the heights of the celestial sanctum. You may wish to picture beautiful stained glass windows or other artworks symbolizing mystical and Rosicrucian laws and principles. Just feel the exhilaration of being at the heights of the celestial sanctum, tuning with the divine within. When you've filled in your visualization, your personal celestial sanctum, feel the exhilaration of being there. Release your visualization and dwell in what Rosicrucians refer to as peace profound, the most profound form of peace. Dwelling in the highest form of consciousness. Let's apply now the law of cosmic attunement and the law of silence as we dwell in silence. Just feel whatever there is to feel. Just let go, be receptive to, and surrender to the divine within, our true nature and guide. As we continue our meditation in the sacred temple of our celestial sanctum, surrounded by the temple of the cosmos, let us listen to a choir recording. Norwich Cathedral, one of the Anglo-Norman temples, singing Psalm 124, reminding us of the angelic voices of angels, helping us tune us with the cosmic. Now, fratres and sorors, participants, let us undertake a further spiritual operation of the work and worship of the Rosicrucian Order AMORC. We continue our meditation. Let us join in the work of the Silent Council in conjunction with the Council of Solace, Grand Lodge of the Rosicrucian Order AMORC. Let us radiate love and well-being to all those who have petitioned the Grand Lodge for guidance and healing. Let us radiate love and well-being to all those who petitioned our affiliated bodies, the Rosicrucian Order AMORC, for guidance and healing. And let us radiate love and well-being to all those you know who are in need, guidance on healing. And let us radiate love and well-being to all sentient beings throughout the cosmos who are in need of guidance and healing. Just let the healing forces radiate out from you like a great searchlight or spotlight, blowing out at a tremendous speed, just like we rose up to the heights of the celestial sanctum at a tremendous speed. Let the love flow out and fill the cosmos all around you, to all in need. Recently surrender to the divine within, for outer nature is but a channel in this work. The master within knows how to do this. Let this true nature of ours do its work as we continue to surrender. And let the flow happen. At a certain point, I think you'll find that the radiation speed up and you know you're making contact with those in need. You may no longer need to make any conscious effort for the great flow and radiation of love and well-being. And when that happens, you may wish to let your mind expand out with those rays to fill the cosmos, to be one with the cosmic mind. Experience as the cosmic mind experiences is love and radiation. Be the cosmic mind. Assume the cosmic mind now. Just continue to let the great radiations of love and well-being from deep within your nature go out to all in need. So we assume the cosmic mind. Let your mind fill the cosmos. Be one with the one. Now, for riders and sorors and participants, we'll formally conclude this period of the work of the Silent Council in conjunction with the Council of Solace. We will continue our meditation a while longer. But to conclude this period of metaphysical aid, assured that the radiations will continue out from us as a way of life and part of our mission on Earth. Let us say together, if it pleases the cosmic, it is done, so mote it be. Let us continue to dwell at the heights of the celestial sanctum, the center of our being. And one with the cosmic mind. Feel the work of rejuvenation, repair going on within us. Now, fighters and sorors and participants, soon we'll ascend from the heights of the celestial sanctum. You may wish to invoke the law of gratitude. Thanks to all those who have loved you well, who have taught you well. Help bring you here today. Now let us begin our descent, moving at tremendous speed way beyond the speed of light, past the superclusters of galaxies, the nebulae and the galaxies and the stellar phenomena, beauty and wonder of all, the divine music, all the octaves of the cosmic keyboard. See in distance the supercluster that is our home, and plunge within it, its myriad clusters of galaxies. See in the great distance as we move at tremendous speed to our local cluster of galaxies and plunge into it. See the beauty of the galaxies, some spiraling in other forms. And see in the distance our great home, the Milky Way galaxy. Enter into the great arm where we dwell. Past the stars, comets, planets, the rogue planets, the asteroids, the nebulae. And see in the distance the wonder of our solar system and our local star, the sun, and the beautiful blue jewel of the earth. And the hemisphere where we left off, and our continent, our great nation or country. We continue to ascend. Our province or state, our county, our city or town or geographic area. And before we formally conclude our period of meditation, I invite you to say with me another prayer and invocation. May the God of my heart sanctify this attunement of self, the celestial sanctum, so mote it be. Now, brothers and sorors and participants, let us continue to descend on our neighborhood, our geographic area, a home and dwelling building where we left off. When you're ready, you may wish to stretch and open your eyes, feeling remade, rejuvenated, all the more ready for the work and worship of the Rosicrucian order this day and for your mission in life. Thank you. Now we'll continue with our presentation, a mystical tour of a medieval cathedral too. I want to show you another part of the Bayeux tapestry, this great work of embroidery. To give some further background at it in the cathedral we're going to consider. There was, in around the year 1027 CE in the Common Era, 11th century, a young woman to sleep at night in Normandy. She was named Heleba. And she pictured in her dream that night a tremendous force rising out from her belly that went right up through the thatch roof in the home where she was dwelling. And the great tree continued to rise up, covering her neighborhood, her county. And the branches continued to grow at a tremendous rate, covering all of Normandy. And continued to rise up. And the branches started to reach over to the west to go over the English Channel towards England. And it started to cover all of England. Hastings and London and Thetford and Norwich and York and Durham. It was a very powerful dream. In the Middle Ages, dreams were important. Those following a spiritual tradition would follow their sacred texts, such as for Christians, their Bible, and the great spiritual dreams in it, such as those of Jacob's ladder. Just as we rose up and down from the heights of the celestial sanctum like Jacob in his dream. The Rosicrucian order is not a religion, but our spiritual teachings of the mystical nature allow us to have a much greater understanding of sacred texts. Also, not so different time period as that dream, there was a young boy who had a vision. He grew up in the north of Italy, in the foothills of the Alps. He had a very spiritual mother who laid a great foundation in him. And she spoke of the divine on high. So on one occasion, he went up high into one of the mountains, and he had a vision there of the divine. He ate with and he supped with, and the divine spoke with him and made a powerful effect on him. The divine asked him about his quest in his life, a spiritual nature. And they broke bread together. And then he came down from the mountain. Later, speaking of dreams and visions, there was a great sign in the sky in the year 1066 CE. You'll see in the Bayeux tapestry here for you, spoken in the medieval Latin. There was a stellar-like phenomena, a great fiery star. It was actually a comet that we'd come to know later as Halley's Comet. And you see figures looking up at this wondrous phenomena of a celestial and universal nature in the skies. And we see here King Harold, who's taken over the kingship of England in 1066, when Edward the Confessor had passed away, as we saw in the previous view of the Bayeux tapestry. But there was great concern seeing this fiery star-like object in the sky, because they were interpreted as messengers of great change, especially when a king had come into office. That it would be a great change. They may be usurped, and indeed, back in Normandy, there was preparations made to invade England. And indeed, in the autumn of 1066, looking out from England, its high cliffs, there was a great invasion force, approximately 700 ships. The great tree that had been conceived of earlier that I had about was now crossing the English Channel. Because on the night of that dream, that young woman had been with the brother of the Duke of Normandy, and they had conceived a child. That child became William, the Duke of Normandy, who is now working to become William the Conqueror, William the First. When the Normans came into England, one of the first works that they did was form castles, first in wood and then in stone. One of the great castles in stone was built in Norwich, in East Anglia. You see before here a map from the 11th century, what the town of Norwich looked like in the 11th century. There was the new borough where Normans and Anglo-Saxons lived, and the cathedral, where we'll concentrate on the cathedral close area here. Please take special note of the River Wensum, because that's an important part of our story. Much of the Anglo-Saxon town was built over to allow the new Anglo settlement. The Normans were a minority in England, so they had to build a castle to protect themselves He introduced new laws. William the Conqueror viewed himself as the proper heir after Edward the Confessor, the holy king, great healing king. They were relatives, and he said that King Edward had promised him the crown. He was coming to take what was rightfully his and under the divine right of kingship. Let us move in closer and closer to Norwich, and the cathedral will concentrate on here. You'll see depicted the great monastic complex in Norwich that's associated with the cathedral. Here, the square out here is actually the cloister. There's actually what's here is the bishop's palace, because it's both a monastery, but also a cathedral. So it had a cathedra in the Latin, or a throne of a bishop. There was gates, and there was a canal brought in from the River Wensum. That's very important, because that's where the stone would come in all the way from Caen, France, across the English Channel, beautiful limestone that was used to build Norwich Cathedral. Monastic complexes were somewhat like towns in themselves. There had to be many workers to support the work of the knight. The knights and the monks, particularly for that support their 7 offices by the Benedictine rule associated with the mystic and Saint Benedict, passed down through the Middle Ages. In this presentation, we're going to concentrate the most on the Anglo-Norman fabric from the late 11th century and first third approximately of the 12th century. I show you before you now a ground plan of Norwich Cathedral and part of its monastery. We see the great square of its cloister where the monks would work and contemplate. We'll also see depicted on it the nave. And the west front is here by 1. The nave is like from the term naval, the Latin for the ship. We'd be the nave that we'd be journeying on through our spiritual life. Our great temple and cathedral was to match allegorically our own journey on the mystical path. You'll see here as 3, that's the choir. The singing of the monks would take place. Then there is 4, the central tower here. 5, the chancel in place of the high altar. 8 and 9 would take in the transepts that form the great cross with the nave. 5, the chancel. 10, as I've spoken of already, is the cloister. You can see also depicted on it the vaulting. Here, the elaborate fan vaulting later after the Anglo-Norman period, but the vaulting's here in the crisscross pattern here. It's a beautiful, in a way, a beautiful sacred diagram. In a way to walk in a cathedral, in a way is to walk in a cosmogram. Let us come into the cathedral shortly, but let's take a view from a distance of it first to see its striking image, in a way, a pilgrimage site. Here we're looking from the symbolic southeast. There's the later fan vaulting, part of the Gothic period. One thing that's remarkable about Norwich Cathedral is the amount of its Anglo-Norman fabric that's still there, as put up in the late 11th and early 12th century. You'll see radiating chapels off the east end here, a long nave. The cloister would be the scriptorium. There's earlier, some of these later rebuilt buildings would be part of the monastic complex around here. The River Wear winding way around here. The beautiful tower and spire associated with the term and etymology of inspiration. This would be the center of the town. This would be the center of sacred place for all those who dwell around it. Here's a close-up on the tower. You see the beautiful rondel work in the limestone, the small cushion capitals, indicative of the Romanesque period, the semicircular arcs based on the circle, like a dado arcade, the interweaving arches we'll see, and pillars and capitals that will mirror the interior. The church we know is dedicated as a heavenly city brought down on earth. In a way, it's recreating the heavenly city that is the entirety of creation, but also our divine nature within. We know that by the way the surviving texts of the liturgy. If we come in the front apse, we look down the nave. In the Anglo-Norman period, they wouldn't have the seating like this. You would see the stone. You see the fan vaulting of the later medieval period there. We see the great attached shafts on the columns here, the different pier types. Moving down to later would be installed an organ for music. At this level, we have the triforium or tribune, and higher up we have the clerestory passages. In earlier times, the monks had altars up there in addition to the altars and chapels that were elsewhere in the cathedral. There would be chapels at this upper area up here, somewhat like in allusion to the Last Supper, where there was the upper room or the upper temple. But it would also be a place where the monks could carry out their 7 offices of the day unencumbered by the pilgrims and the faithful that are coming to the cathedral to worship, that are not part of the Benedictine monastic tradition. So the cathedral would have multiple functions. First and foremost, it was a place for an enactment of a sacred drama, the Mass. We know from the way that a medieval church was dedicated, including from this time period, and I'll give you a reference to this later if you're inclined, that part of the experience of the cathedral was to remind us of that holy temple that we are. Explicit allusions are made in the ritual for it. Let us go further in to the great temple. You'll see here from the tower looking down in, with a special effect of the camera lens, you'll see the crossing here, the great arms of the church, but also here, moving back into the chancel and the choir, the great movement upward of the attached half shafts, huge vaulting coming up around. Quite an inspiring sight to see below. Further back behind, into the chancel and behind the choir, we see the east end apse, the place of the high altar. The church was dedicated to the Holy Trinity. Later, higher up, there's the stained glass window from later after the Anglo-Norman period and various effects associated with the Gothic period, and the beautiful fan vaulting, all geometric masterpieces cut in stone. You see a person in for the effect of the size. These upper levels are not generally open to the public. They're quite wonderful to get into if one's doing research on cathedrals. Get special permission to go up in and experience the beauty of the church, both up there and the views from there. We know that when the Norwich Cathedral was dedicated by the laying of the foundation stone, that occurred in 1096, that the bishop at the time, Herbert de Logenge, who had been brought over from France by the king, he said, "In the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, Amen. I, Herbert, the bishop, have placed this stone." And then the building could commence. Typically, there'd be fasting done even before that to help purify the site. The east end would be built first, so the monks and the bishop could start using the church as early as possible, even before the rest of the cathedral was not built upon. We know that Bishop Herbert admonished his monks and those building to follow the biblical example of their sacred text. But just as there was the gate building projects of Moses and the tabernacle, or Solomon and the temple, that there was the leaders and the faithful were to be workers like unto them. They'd be recreating that sacred history in their own time. We know too that the way that the altars were placed in the liturgical and ritual actions of the cathedral, that the cathedral was to a fair degree built so it would encompass all that sacred drama, particularly close to the Abbey of Féchamp back in France, that Urban de Lozinger was closely related to the way they were recreating things from their homeland. We know from medieval records, but also from more recent persons that sing in the choir at Norwich Cathedral and other choirs, and I'll give you a reference on this, that there's a special way to sing. Gregorian chant or plain chant was particularly conducive to the cathedral space. Builders had a sense of how to build so that sound would resonate and be amplified in various ways. For example, today we know persons singing the choir at Durham Cathedral similar to this. They have learned how to pause in their singing so that the sound will carry well. If this isn't done, the sound will tend to sound like a syllable soup, and then will not be able to understand what was done. But once one has learned how to sing in the cathedral, as monks did of old in the Anglo-Norman period, from the choir all the way back to the nave, the sound no longer echoes or unduly reverberates, but in a way, you're not only singing in the cathedral, but in some ways more accurately, you're singing with the cathedral. It's part of the sound and of the voices, because you'll hear sounds and voices coming not only directly from the singers, but behind you and all around you, the way this great acoustic space works. Let's continue our tour a little more before we finish up, and I'll show you a little bit more about how the cathedral was constructed. You'll see here now the great cloister on the exterior and the different levels that I mentioned to you earlier to do with the tribune and the clear story. The Benedictines emphasized both work and prayer. They lived a very, very balanced form of life. Here we actually see one of the capitals that survived from the 12th century, still in the Anglo-Norman period. This is a capital, and you can see the wonderful carving that was done, the very fine chiseling that would have to be done. In a way, you see the green person, it's rising out of the various foliates of nature, this sort of harmony with nature. It was a beautiful capital that was on part of a column in the cloister in earlier times. The very decorative work that's remind of art historians identified with jewelry and illuminated manuscripts. I want to tell you a little bit more about the design of the cathedral before we finish up. And I wanted to show you here what's referred to as Gunzo's dream. It's a story about the Saints Peter, Paul, and Stephen. You can see them labeled here, such as Paul here. It came to a monk named Gunzo, not at Norwich, but at Cluny, around the same time period that Norwich was being built. The great abbey was being rebuilt, called Cluny III in central France. And Gunzo had a dream that these three saints came to him and showed him how the cathedral, the size it was to be built to, and how it would be laid out with ropes in a geometric fashion. Norwich Cathedral is 430 feet, 3 feet long. It's built on the size of old St. Peter's in Rome. It's following away the ancient pattern of early Christianity, with that central vessel of the nave and its aisles and great arms and apses. You see, the idea of spiritual direction through dreams and attuning with the cosmic was important in the Middle Ages, just as it is now. And it was also used to justify these large building projects. One of my colleagues, Professor Eric Fernie, has studied in detail Norwich Cathedral, and I know many of you are interested in the sacred application of number and geometry. Here you'll see various measurements in meters. The cloister, for example, lengths are laid out here. If you form a square on that cloister and swing it down its arm, which gives you the √2, the length of the diagonal, that gives you the length of the nave. And if you form a great square on the nave and swing down the arc, that gives you the length of the cathedral to what's called the chord of the apse, where the circular apse moves out from. And these are very detailed, careful measurements. We're following the same pattern again and again to the side of the square and its diagonal, which has a pedigree in ancient times and during the medieval period. Similarly, I mentioned earlier to that bishop's palace that comes off at an angle from the nave. It too follows the side of the square and its diagonal. For example, if you take in the north nave aisle, the square there, and swing out the diagonal from it and form a square it, and then form the same size square that was in the nave aisle, and attach to the lower part here and the upper part of the square here, the vertices, you'll get this angle. So it's associated with the side and the square and its diagonal. And the walls are in a proportion of the side of the square diagonal, what we say in modern terms, 1 to √2. But also the villa into the tower of the bishop's palace also applies the side of the square diagonal. The length of 2 here, but then the √2, which is 2 divided by √2, associated with the side of the square and its diagonal. This type of design motif continues again and again. For example, in the piers in the cathedral, you see cross sections. You hear the thickness of the wall, approximately 1.94 meters. If a square is formed there that has half its side is the width or thickness of the wall, and its midpoint center on its far side here is the center midpoint, half on either side. The square has half on either side, and then we swing the diagonal around, and then on that square we go from A to C and swing the diagonal. That actually gives us these important junctures in the this column here and here, where the attached shafts and half shafts are attached. Professor Fernie has also shown it here with the 2 and the 1 proportion. Here we have this of the diagonals that we talked about swinging around. All this laid out through number and geometry, particularly the side of the square and its diagonal that's in a way riddled throughout the cathedral. And then that gives that beautiful harmony to the whole cathedral. Now, as we start to finish up, I wanted to take you back to a beautiful view from within the cathedral, looking down towards the liturgical or symbolic east. The cathedral itself was quite close to due east as well. As I alluded to, the cathedral building was to be an edification, that the inner and outer nature was to be given to us. For example, in a contemporary text by U.S. St. Victor, the mystical mirror of the church, he says, "But whatever things are done visibly, the same doth God work by his invisible power in the soul, which is the true temple of God, wherein faith layeth the foundation, hope raiseth the buildings, and charity finisheth it." He goes on to say too, that the material church in which the people come together to praise God signify the holy body or community, which is builded in the heavens and of the living stones. This is the Lord's house, which is firmly builded. This time, as I prepare to conclude, I asked Sharon to post the resources in the chat, and also attach them there as a PDF that you may find particularly easy to draw down as we start to come to our conclusion for today. In conclusion, I'd like to say that we've learned about the multifaceted and unified ways in which a great temple represents in symbols, expresses in ritual, and engenders in us the experience of the divine within. We've explored some of the surprising, enriching ways in which Rosicrucian laws and principles deepen our understanding of ourselves and of our environment. Thank you, everyone.